What started out as a beautiful day for a picnic has turned into an all-you-can-eat buffet of severe weather. A massive line of thunderstorms is making its way across the United States, and that spells big trouble for air traffic. Let's check in with our storm chasers for more.
Okay, Rick, we're going live.
Thunderstorms, severe weather, and icing are serious business, and it's a controller's job to keep everyone involved informed and as safe as possible. There are far more fatalities in the aviation industry due to severe weather than from mid-air collisions. Controllers do an excellent job at keeping aircraft separated. The same vigilance is needed in assisting pilots to avoid or navigate out of severe weather situations. General aviation pilots often have fewer cockpit resources available for weather avoidance than professional air carrier pilots. GA pilots may not be able to see thunderstorms well enough to avoid them. This may be because they are flying in IFR conditions, or because they may not have access to weather radar data. It's a controller's duty to share weather information with general aviation, commercial, and military pilots alike.
Communicating severe weather information to a pilot is a vital role of the air traffic controller. Let's check in with our storm chasers as they track this major thunderstorm.
Controllers across this country provide information and guidance to help pilots avoid hazardous weather situations. Let's go.
Still, a significant number of incidents result from pilots flying into severe weather conditions.
All thunderstorms should be treated with respect, as they can change in intensity very quickly. That is why continuous solicitation and timely dissemination of PIREPs is vitally important to ensure the most accurate information is available. A pilot's best course of action is to avoid the storm altogether. Hey John, wait up!
Thunderstorms are dangerous to all aircraft, so let's talk about some of the hazards. Turbulence is present in all thunderstorms, and in some instances can reach severe levels. It's almost impossible for a pilot to hold a steady altitude in a thunderstorm. Trying to maneuver an aircraft in turbulence greatly increases the stress put on an airframe. Another hazard is hail. Hail damage affects airflow over the airfoil, resulting in increased stall speeds and reducing the handling of the aircraft. In severe cases, the windshield can be cracked or broken.
There's also icing to consider. Pilots may not expect it, especially during the summer months, and might not be prepared to take action. Icing can be extremely dangerous. The abundance of supercooled water in a thunderstorm makes clear icing accumulate very rapidly. Encounters with icing can be frequent in a cluster of cells. Rime and mixed icing can also occur in thunderstorms. A lightning strike can puncture the skin of an aircraft and may damage the aircraft's communications and electronic equipment. Nearby lightning can temporarily blind a pilot and can induce permanent errors in the magnetic compass.
This is it. I don't want to get any closer to these thunderstorms. According to the PIREPs we just received from ATC, it's getting rough out there. We're over the drop zone. It's now or never.
Rick, I think these conditions are perfect for a tornado. Another hazard, thunderstorms. Many people are familiar with tornadoes. The only difference between a tornado and a waterspout is that one is over land while the other is over water. Tornadoes typically occur on warm and humid spring afternoons. They form in individual convective cells and squall lines. It is important to understand that tornadoes often extend well into the cumuliform cloud. In fact, the vortex associated with violent tornadoes often extends to the summit of their parent cloud.
This is starting to look really bad. I think we should go find some shelter.
I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for some time now.
I think there was a farmhouse over there. I'm out of here. An aircraft entering a tornado vortex is almost certain to suffer structural damage. Since the vortex extends well into the cloud, any pilot inadvertently caught in a severe thunderstorm could encounter a hidden vortex. Another hazard associated with thunderstorms is a downburst, the most dangerous of which is the microburst, which is less than 2.5 miles wide. Downbursts produce low-level wind shear and roll vortices, which are the most dangerous to aircraft flying below 2,000 feet, normally during takeoffs, approaches, and landings. Downbursts often occur in the first 15 to 20 minutes of a developing thunderstorm. That is one reason thunderstorms are hazardous to flight in all stages, not just in the mature stage.
We must be in a heavy microburst right now.
We're riding it out right here.
An aircraft caught in a microburst would first experience a headwind, which would cause the aircraft to balloon above the normal glide slope. At the center of the microburst, the aircraft would experience a downdraft, which would cause the aircraft to sink. The aircraft would then enter the most lethal zone, where a sudden tailwind could cause the aircraft to lose airspeed and lift. Even an experienced pilot might not be able to recover. Doppler radar can detect microbursts as early as 5 minutes before ground contact. If a report is received from terminal controllers, it's critical that the information be forwarded on to pilots. Low-level wind shear has long been recognized as an extreme hazard during takeoff and landing phases of flight. Rapid variations in the headwind and tailwind components can result in serious performance changes for the aircraft. The hazard increases with proximity to convective weather. Pilots rely on ATC to provide them with up-to-date information.
Thunderstorms can be as deadly to air carriers as they are to general aviation aircraft. Even highly experienced pilots are subject to a thunderstorm's awesome power. One of the most devastating aircraft accidents that occurred as a result of a microburst and its associated wind shear involved a US Air DC-9.
On July 2, 1994, US Air 1016 began their descent into Charlotte, North Carolina. As the flight was being vectored for a visual approach, a rapidly developing thunderstorm moved over the airport and the approach end of runway 18 right. The TRACON controller saw the precipitation on the radar and told US Air 1016 to expect vectors for an ILS approach to runway 18 right. The captain and first officer had visual contact with the developing storm and discussed that if they had to abandon the approach, they would go right. The two arrivals in front of them reported a smooth ride on the approach, and the tower controller relayed the PIREPs to US Air 1016. As the flight approached the storm, the rain intensified, and the captain made a comment to the first officer that they may encounter some wind shear. At 1841.06 and 1841.18, the tower controller issued 2 wind shear alerts. At this point, 2 flights waiting for departure elected to stay on the ground and wait it out. 42 seconds later, US Air 1016 encountered the microburst. The crew initiated a missed approach and began a right turn. While transitioning the microburst, the aircraft experienced a wind change of 61 knots, from approximately a 35-knot headwind to a 26-knot tailwind in a 14-second period. During this encounter, the vertical wind velocity was 25 to 30 feet per second downward. Despite over 21,000 hours of combined flying experience, the pilots of US Air 1016 were unable to recover control of the aircraft. Of the 57 souls on board, only 20 survived.
As a result of this and similar aviation accidents, Terminal Doppler Weather Radar, or TDWR, was installed at many air traffic control towers across the country. TDWR is far more accurate than LWASP, which was in use at the time of this accident. TDWR can predict a microburst as much as 5 minutes before it occurs. This accident also helped bring changes to ATC procedures. Controllers are now required to display radar-derived weather and advise pilots of depicted precipitation, as well as advising them of any changes in current weather conditions. Had these ATC requirements and weather technologies been in place in July of 1994, perhaps this tragedy could have been avoided.
What? Oh, we're back on the air now. Okay. Well, let's check in with our storm chasers, Rick and John, see how they're doing.
There are some common misconceptions about a pilot's ability to avoid weather, and these can lead to disastrous results.
Myth number 1. A pilot can visually detect bad weather.
Not always. The pilot may be in IFR conditions. One of the most important questions you should ask a pilot is safe flight conditions. If they are IMC, or it is after dark, they are relying largely on ATC for guidance. Telling pilots the direction of a storm's movement and the direction that other pilots have deviated is helpful information.
Myth number 2. All aircraft have some sort of onboard weather detection equipment.
Not so. There's a big difference between the ability of air carrier pilots and general aviation pilots to detect weather, due to differences in aircraft equipment. Also, military aircraft often don't have room in the cockpit for weather detection equipment. Though more common than it once was, GPS and onboard weather detection equipment is still not commonplace. Many GA pilots have no onboard equipment at all.
Myth number 3. The pilot will avoid bad weather when told, proceed on course when able, after deviating.
This is not always true. In several weather-related accidents, ATC assumed the pilot was avoiding the weather, while the pilot may have believed the ATC was providing guidance around the area. If this type of breakdown in communication can be eliminated, safety will be enhanced. Clearly relaying PIREPs and precipitation depicted on radar displays is paramount. Controllers must always use approved phraseology whenever possible, and use plain language when there is no phraseology that applies. The important point to remember is to keep communication clear, concise, and up to date.
Myth number 4. The last 2 airplanes didn't deviate, neither will this one.
Don't assume anything. How much a pilot will deviate depends on many factors. How quickly the storm is building, the pilot's previous experience, if they can visually see the storm or not, if they have onboard weather avoidance equipment, if they are carrying passengers, the size of the aircraft, and even company policy.
Told you we should have pulled over back there and got gas.
Yeah, you were right. I'm starving. Hey, what's this?
Did you order some Chinese takeout?
You have found the instruments launched from a weather balloon. To save research costs, please mail the device back to the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma.
John, how cool is this? I always wanted to go to the National Weather Center.
I would have preferred Chinese takeout.
Myth number 5. Aircraft can top a thunderstorm to avoid the hazards.
The probability of this is unlikely. Many aircraft, especially GA aircraft, don't have the performance capabilities necessary to climb through those altitudes. Storms build rapidly. Tops can be significantly higher than last reported, and turbulence can extend 2,000 feet above the cloud tops.
At 1300 Zulu over Green Bay Vortac, an Airbus 319 reported moderate turbulence at flight level 350. Tops estimated at flight level 340.
Myth number 6. If there appears to be a hole in the weather, the pilot should be able to go through it.
This is unlikely. With weather hazards extending about 20 miles from a storm, even a 40-mile hole does not guarantee the pilot will be free of thunderstorm hazards. The nature of thunderstorms is for them to merge. It is common for holes to close rapidly, and the northern edge of a break in a line of thunderstorms is one of the most common spots for tornadoes to appear. Also, the anchor cell of the southern part of a squall line often spawns tornadoes.
Well, you think this is the place?
I don't know, what does the address say?
120 David L. Bourne Boulevard.
I think this is it.
While we're waiting for our storm chasers to report in from the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma, let's learn more about weather radar from our own meteorologist in the field, Karen Winston.
Thanks, Bob. I'm here with Patty Picard, an instructor at the FAA Academy, to learn about the types of weather equipment that air traffic controllers use in their facilities. Patty, can you tell us how controllers use radar as a tool for weather avoidance?
Controllers are required to display weather on their scopes at all times, including the intensities of that weather, and provide pilots with current weather information. Although the radar doesn't depict thunderstorms per se, the precipitation intensity, the rate of development, and the altitude at which it forms can give us some pretty good indications of thunderstorm activity.
Why would a pilot